My name is Sabrina. I'm the Corporate Development Manager at Aura Ventures, which is the venture capital arm of Aura Group. I work in a very cross-functional role across investor relations, operations, working with our portfolio, and all the essential people across the team in the business that bring up the great work that we do. So my background, I actually began my career in the sort of corporate banking world. I worked in banking and insurance with Suncorp Group and CBA, and essentially ended up working in enterprise technology and strategy and transformation. During my time there, I was part of the tech curious, startup curious wave that came about just pre-pandemic, and through that began working with a number of different corporate VCs to kind of get a little bit closer to some of the innovation work that was happening in the big organizations. So following that, I actually followed some of my curiosity to spend some time in Oslo in Norway, where I had a friend who was starting up a venture over there, and immersed for about half a year in the local innovation ecosystem in Scandinavia, and then came back to Australia to understand what that could look like for me in the local Australian startup ecosystem. From there, I landed a role with Fishburners, which was at the time one of the one of the largest startup communities in Australia. It was one of the oldest as well, and had produced over $600 million in enterprise value at that point in time. And it was undergoing a big inflection point and a big shift in terms of the role it was going to play in a really evolving ecosystem. So in that role, I basically managed key partnerships and ecosystem partnerships, working with banks, with organizations, with government, and it really put me at the heart of the entire Australian ecosystem. It was probably the best possible place for me to learn and understand the entire infrastructure of the innovation economy in Australia and in New South Wales especially. Through that work, I actually encountered Aura Ventures at the time. They were doing a lot of incredible work with grassroots engineering communities, and actually building up an incredible community to grow the technology capability across Australia. And through my work as well, I'm a casual academic at the University of New South Wales in the business school, and through a few key partnerships we put together some amazing cool programs. I really liked the work that Aura did. I really saw the reputation that they had in market amongst founders and operators and really strong technical founders. That high conviction, thesis-led approach, that sort of discipline, I thought was something that really differentiated them in market. And over time, the more we worked together, I really saw myself gravitating towards what they were building, and then came into the business at a really exciting time when they were looking at raising this next fund that we are now all having a look at, and what that would look like in the next 10 years for Aura. I think that venture capital is the beginning of all of the greatest stories we've ever seen in terms of companies and technology, and the biggest shifts that we've seen as a society. And I think that being part of those really early stage stories is such a rare opportunity in a market that is very nascent and very new. We have such incredible potential in the Australian economy, with such great education systems, really good social structures, really great people, and really great exposure to global markets. And I think that the stories that we can sort of help influence and help create the kinds of people that startup culture attracts are really unlike any other people that you ever meet in terms of their ambition, their creativity. And I think that that's always what drew me to the industry. In terms of investing, I think it really allows you to exercise incredible discipline. It really helps you spot patterns and really appreciate history as well when you're thinking about what the future can potentially look like. And finding those people who have such a clear vision for the future of the industry they're trying to change is incredibly powerful, to be surrounded by them as then investors, where we're not really the main characters, but we're the people who are going to set them up and equip them with the tools that they need to accomplish that, which is an incredible privilege to be part of. How we add value and kind of how you bring out the best in founders. A lot of our role as investors is really identifying where the opportunities are, and it's not always necessarily in the product or in the technology. We're looking for the people who have a really clear, again, vision and understanding of those industries, and we recognize that they have the potential capability, the coachability as well, to actually achieve what they're looking to set out to achieve. So once we kind of bring them into the fold, our role then is to really bring out the best in them. And whatever that looks like, building the best team around them, setting them up with the right people or the right networks, equipping them with world-class technology and platforms, and making sure they're surrounded in the best possible environment to thrive. That is our role. And the beauty of that is every single founder you come across, there's definitely a through line of founder DNA that we see, but at the same time, they come from such unexpected backgrounds, and we really have to appreciate the uniqueness of every single founder who sits in front of us and what motivates them and what drives them, and actually making sure that they have everything they need to be extremely successful in building the business that they're building. Founder DNA, you've got to be a little bit irrational of a human being to really jump in and do the things that they do. To be honest, my two colleagues are founders, and I feel like I'm surrounded by that energy every day of that real, unbridled, we can truly achieve anything that we put our minds to, having incredible focus on what your North Star is and what you're trying to accomplish, but then also having this incredible adaptability and being able to understand people really, really well. And that emotional intelligence, I think, is a very underrated trait in a lot of people, because at the end of the day, for you to really scale and really do well, you need to bring as many people on that journey, or important people on that journey. So the ability to communicate and the ability to tell that story really effectively and have clarity, but then also be able to be open about when you don't have all of the answers. That's probably something that's even more valuable, is having the self-awareness to know where your blind spots are. And that's again where we can come in and be of more value, because we can help to supplement that for them. Resilience, as a founder, probably captures the entire industry, and the reason why sort of venture capital really stands the test of time. It's not as susceptible to the flux that we see that affects almost every other aspect of the market. When we look at venture capital and when we talk to our clients about it, its performance is not mirrored by what is currently happening in the market. It outplays all of that because it is so long term, because it's about that real growth. And those shifts and changes need to be things that founders are also able to ride and make sure that they know how to navigate really effectively. And so when it comes to mental resilience, seeking that clarity is incredibly important. I think it's actually somewhat unsurprising, the kind of trend that we're seeing, in the sense that really what it reflects is the rapid growth of the information economy. We have more access to information than we've ever had before, and I'm sure that the curiosity and openness towards private markets has to be some kind of correlation with that access to information that more people now have. And with that, we're less suffering from starvation, it's more indigestion. So whereas before that access issue was not even a question, because there was no awareness in the first place of where these opportunities sat. And now anyone walking on the street can vibe code up a product or a website. So naturally the entire baseline of every other thing associated with it has to lift as well. And so when it comes to things like private investments, and we see this talking to wealth advisors and family offices who are seeing a real shift in the makeups of their portfolios as well, that general trend is skewing towards people getting more of an understanding of how the world works and realizing there are opportunities that they're very, very late to the party for, and thinking about, and everybody should have the opportunities to be able to access them if they are of that spirit and of that mind. Venture capital itself, we know, attracts a very certain kind of investor, a certain kind of persona, and if you do align with that, if you really want to contribute to the innovation economy, if you want to have access to this kind of growing space and things that are happening at the very, very beginning of these amazing stories that will probably tell generational impacts and stories down the line, then you should have a way to be able to access that. And it's not for everybody, but if you do align with it, then I think it's really important that you have a way in. And with Aura's story, Aura's been in market, one of the longest standing VCs in Australia. And so Aura has played a role in actually building that innovation economy and building the VC ecosystem. And so when you spent that much time contributing towards it, I think that you have a privilege, but also an immense responsibility in how that actually takes shape in the future. And that is not just in regards to the kinds of founders or the kinds of grassroots talent we bring on, but also on the other side of the coin, the kinds of people who are investing and shaping what that looks like. So yeah, it's an incredibly important role, and I think it's also a very exciting one to be part of. We chose to partner with VentureCrowd because we saw an incredible opportunity to A, democratize access to private investments, but B, also find a partner who had the knowledge and the insight and that industry expertise to actually really also focus on that education piece for a lot of investors, which is so valuable. We have worked over the long term with an investor base that is quite familiar with private markets, and for us, we really want to make sure that we can amplify that and the value of that and some of the strategy and the thinking behind it. And what VentureCrowd allows us to do is to tap into a really valuable pool of like-minded investors who are thinking about it, and for us also kind of supplement some of those knowledge gaps and actually make sure that they feel confident enough to invest into it. And so I think that that is a really powerful combination. It opens up our community from an investor perspective, and we're always looking to grow that. You know, the values that Aura is founded on is that anyone should be able to, you know, build generational wealth for their families, for their future generations, and what VentureCrowd does aligns really well with that. It is so incredibly important when we think about the digitization of private markets. This is inevitably how it will look to us down the line in decades to come. And accessibility is a piece that I think has gone under the radar in the venture capital market, especially for a very long time. And now we have this opportunity to really write that playbook of how people access it, how people understand it. And that's an incredibly important piece of work that I think lays the foundations for many future funds, many future founders as well, and can really impact the trajectory of the innovation economy for Australia as a whole. It was perfect. That's his baby, but thank you so much.